What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 22 of the Codec. I am joined here today with Big Cake Games and Yong Yeah. Starting off with Big Cake Games, we've got Ray Wilmot and Alex. How are you guys doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
Yeah, great, thanks. How are you doing?
We're great.
We're doing well. Excited to talk to you guys for a kind of follow-up interview about what you have going on here with Cold Horizon. But as always, we're joined by Yong Yeah.
What's up, everybody? It's Yong here, and welcome to our interview with Big Cake Games, the team originally behind the Metal Gear remake, which was unfortunately canceled. But they are working on this new project, Cold Horizon. Looks great, looks fantastic. We're here to talk about what this game's all about, so stay tuned, and you're going to learn a lot about this game.
Awesome. Excited to do it. Yong, I think you actually have the first question, buddy.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, introduce yourselves. That's just sort of my first question. Ray and Alex, what are your roles at Big Cake Games? Who are you as individuals, and what makes you, I guess, passionate about this project?
Well, I'm the narrative designer on the game, so I basically help with the writing and the cutscene dialogue, directing the characters, and I'm also sort of helping with the sort of level production, puzzle solving and things like that. Basically, for me, I've always wanted to get into games. I mean, I was a journalist for about 5-6 years, and I really wanted to get into sort of actually developing a game, and this has been a real sort of dream project for me. So this is my first real opportunity to get into this. So yeah, it's been great.
How about you, Alex?
Okay, well, I'm the audio lead at Big Cake Games. Also, just been promoted to producer as well, alongside Ray. And yeah, I mean, I actually started off in theatre as a composer, and then I kind of worked my way to film and TV, and now I've finally got to games because I've been a passionate gamer from an early age. So I've always loved soundtracks and being able to write a soundtrack and also, produce a game is a dream come true, really. So yeah, for me, Cold Horizon, obviously I came from the Metal Gear Remake team, but Cold Horizon was... Are we good? You still got my audio?
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, the Metal Gear Remake, I worked with fellow composer Chris Brem on that, and then we just kind of naturally progressed to this original IP, Cold Horizon, that we're working on, which is a really fantastic project and a lot of scope in terms of music and sound. So yeah, really excited, really enjoying working on it.
Yeah, I've listened to the soundtrack and it's absolutely phenomenal. Like it's like really, really beautiful. If you guys go to youtube.com/Big Cake Games, I believe, yes, there you'll find all the Cold Horizon teasers and footage, and the music is really something that really compelled me about this game. It's got this very interesting style, and so yeah, a fantastic job so far, and I can't wait to listen to more.
Awesome.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, it's definitely, I actually enjoy it as well. It's really cool to kind of see like a smaller team deliver some music on that kind of a scale. And for me, like usually when you think of music for games, you think of this. You see all these behind the scenes with these huge orchestras and all this kind of stuff, and it's cool to see one be done by a smaller studio.
Yeah, I mean, ideally one day we'll obviously have the budget to hire a live orchestra, but for now we're just going to have to suffice with my programming skills. But between us, me and Chris have a very good working relationship, and we're constantly bouncing ideas off each other, and our styles very much complement each other. So, yeah,
that's awesome.
Just got to work with what you've got, so.
Right? So. Ray, it's, for you, man, when you're doing your... sorry, I just wanted to kind of elaborate. I have an actual question for you guys, but I just wanted to talk to you real quick, because we had you on before, and your audio wasn't so good then, and you seem to be cleaned up a lot now. So I actually like to ask you kind of to reiterate what are some of the other projects and things that you've done in the past that have kind of got you into wanting to make games? Like what was something that kind of happened that was like, all right, now I want to make games?
I mean, yeah, same as Alex. I grew up as a lifelong gamer, but about five years ago, I got into the journalism side of things. Started working for a website called This Is My Joystick, and just did some bits and pieces for them. Yeah, I know, right? It was a spin on This Is My Boomstick.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, I started working for them. I did gradually work my way up, and then I started doing freelance bits and bobs for VG247. I've worked bits for IGN. So I've done bits and pieces all over the place, and I just really wanted to as much as I enjoyed writing about games, and as much as I enjoyed getting to play things early and getting to kind of get to the nitty gritty of what makes a game good, I kind of always wanted to be behind the creative process. So that was one of my main sort of drivers, really, because I love. I actually want to write a novel and work on more games and in the written capacity. So it's for me, this is exactly where I want to be right now, and it was kind of a natural sort of segue from that to this, really. So yeah, it's great.
Very cool.
Awesome. Well, I didn't mean to deviate too much from our question list, but that was something that I wanted to ask you during the last interview, but we just didn't really get a chance to. So my first real question for you is, obviously, welcome back to the show, but tell us a little bit about some things that have changed, any kind of major developments since the last time you guys were here, probably, 4 or 5 months ago?
Yeah. Well, obviously, as you guys know, we're on Kickstarter now, so we finally made the jump there. It's something we've been talking about for a while and been working towards.
Right.
The main sort of things, really, we've been kind of developing because I mentioned some concepts back then, and we've been mainly developing that. So we've been trying to work on the stealth aspect of the game, trying to figure out where that fits in, trying to figure out the puzzle solving and how that sort of how that will work within the game, and just basically trying to figure more about the broader approach of how it will all work together and sort of piece it together and kind of make it into a game. But I suppose the big change is the fact that we've actually gone episodic now is obviously something that we didn't mention before. We're actually now gone to a 5-part episodic platformer, which is quite different.
Right. Is there any particular reason for that? Will it help development time and bring the game out faster or something like that?
Yeah, I think one of the main things was we wanted to get it into people's hands quicker. And with the thing with modern day gaming is that I think you can. It's very difficult for someone to lump up, say, £15 just to play a game, and I think that when you're actually when you've got a platformer and that you're not necessarily willing to pay that £15 for, you might necessarily want to jump in at an early point, say £3 for
Right.
it, check it out, see if you like it, and then maybe kind of go forward with that.
Okay.
I think, and that's one of the main reasons, really, is because I think it's worked well with Telltale and it's worked well with Don't Nod, with Life is Strange. And I think because there's such a narrative emphasis in the game, I think it makes sense for us to kind of go that route, really, so people can kind of get a taste of the game and then hopefully keep investing in it.
Awesome. Young, your next question?
Yeah, so for those who may not know what Cold Horizon is, I mean, I've seen the teasers, but in your words, how would you, I guess, summarize this game? What's the rundown of this game? Why should people be on the lookout? Why should they be excited about this game?
Do you want to go, Alex?
Is that to both of us?
It's for either of you, whoever can answer the.
Guys can split it up. Maybe each of you kind of give what you think about it.
Yeah. Well, so just like, what is Cold Horizon? For the people.
Yeah. So Cold Horizon is it's an adventure story about a polar bear and a young boy who embark on a journey for survival, but also to kind of redeem humanity. It's quite an epic scope for a 2D platformer. The actual story itself is, and hence, linking it back to the score again, but hence why the score is very, cinematic and, I mean, it's a story of friendship, survival, and it's a really kind of exciting 2D platformer, and very heartwarming as well. There's a lot of heartwarming elements to the story. Ray, anything to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's as you say, Alex says, it's an exploration adventure, and I think that it's what we really want to try and do is bring the characters to life in this, and I think that's one of the major important elements for this. And I think that's why we spent so much time actually looking for voice actors, and why we've actually now, well, linking it into why Yong has now joined the team. But we really want to kind of bring these characters to life, and they're not just drawings on a page. And I think that that's one of the main aspects of the story, is that you can actually identify with them, you can kind of understand their motivations, you can kind of almost see from their perspective, even if they're on the wrong or the right side. And I think that that's really where the heart of the story goes. Even though Ira is not sort of a talking polar bear, I think there's plenty going on around her, and there's enough conversation going on around her that you could certainly feel her character shine through.
Now, what can you tell us about the gameplay? A lot of people, they say, wow, this looks beautiful, this sounds beautiful, but I would love to see how this plays. So, can you give us a rundown of sort of what can we expect to play, and how that all ties into the narrative and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the stealth component, which we briefly mentioned, we've actually got something to show a bit later on. Basically, that's it's basically we are having that in the game because we want to kind of tie with the polar bear that's come from the sort of the circus, and that's kind of like sort of progressed and developed through that. We want to kind of show that she's an athletic figure, that she's very graceful, and I think the stealth component ties into that she's a very athletic creature. She's not sort of your standard sort of polar bear. And I think that also as well, she's also very strong and powerful, so we also bring that through with sort of the strong attacks that she brings through, and the sort of agility that she has. And I think with the different components that we've got, I mean, there's a big emphasis on puzzle solving, and I think that all sort of filters into that. But also with the child's power that we use to sort of infect the environment using the different effects and different seasons. I think that will really sort of they complement each other really well. So, I mean, for instance, you could have a cavern which is protected by an icicle. The boy's power would let you go into that cavern. They venture deeper into that cavern. The bear catches a whiff of something. The bear follows a scent, follows it through, and then she finds something in the cavern. And obviously then she can use her ability to kind of fight any enemies she comes across. And likewise, the kid's ability then can be used, his ability to set off any traps if need be. So, I mean, there are very different ways to play the game, I think, and I think that's what makes it different and hopefully very fresh, and really ties into the narrative element of the overall scope of the project.
Okay.
I mean, something. Sorry to interrupt, Ray, but
yeah, correct.
Something we've shown already is how the boy's powers can affect, like, how you survive in each level. So you probably saw, although it was brief, you probably saw in the Kickstarter trailer, there's a moment where the polar bear is running. Essentially, time freezes, and the young boy activates his power, and it allows him to break the ice obstacle in front of him. And it's kind of, that's just an example. Obviously, it's a very brief example. It's an example of how you can kind of interact with different objects in the level and the environment to make it more than just kind of, you know, walking along and running as a bear. It just makes it a bit more unique as a platformer, because there's those interactive elements, which will change from season to season as well. So,
now, what can you tell us about, I guess, the combat? Is that something you guys are still kind of developing? Is it still something you guys are working on, or do you guys have like a sort of foundation for that? Because we saw a bit of it in the footage. And we saw the bear, you know, striking at the enemy and, you know, sending him flying away like 20 feet, which, you know, is pretty cool. Will the boy's powers sort of be integrated into the combat as well?
Yeah, I mean, we're thinking about that in terms of having, for instance, in the winter level, we were thinking of the boy being able to use falling icicles to be able to trap or you know, potentially kill the hunters. So there's definitely options there for, again, interacting with the environment, but perhaps in a more offensive way.
Okay.
For more, you know, combat type elements.
Yeah. And obviously we've got the hunters, we've got various sets of hunters as well. So we've got kind of a berserker type hunter who will just charge at you with an axe. We've got long range ones who will attack you with sniper rifles. We've got hunters that will just kind of work around you. Basically, they'll try and like work out what you're doing, so they'll try and be more defensive if you're be on the offensive, and vice versa. So I mean, there's with the defensive attacks that you have, sometimes it's better to be in stealth and then just sneak attack. Sometimes it's better to just go all in and just maul away. But I think there's that's with the different level of attacks. I think that should hopefully make things fresh as well and encourage multiple playthroughs.
Cool. All right, Daly, go ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So my next question for you, I don't know why they're all off of my list here, but my next question for you guys is a lot of the fans of our show will know you guys mostly through the Metal Gear Remake stuff. So my question for you guys is, after that project was done, why switch over to something so different? You start off with a remake of a action stealth game, and then now you're making a game about a polar bear and a child with superpowers. So, like, what's the concept of going from something like that to something like this? Is it just something out of left field, or was this inspired by some other games that you guys like, or something like that?
What do you think, Alex? You really better serve to.
Well, I was going to say that. I mean, we didn't want to completely. The trouble with going to this style game is there's a risk that we're then copying quite a few elements. So by doing something completely different, but also, I mean, there is Metal Gear influence in the artwork.
Oh, we lost connection from Alex, I think.
Did we?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, I'll sort of carry on from what he was saying. Basically, the Metal Gear remake was it was in the concept stage for a long time, and what they basically did from that, they managed to they developed other sketches alongside, because I mean,
Right.
Shiraz, I think you've seen a lot of his artwork. He's quite.
I think
carry
I
on,
lost
Alex.
connection now. I can move to another room, which might have a better connection. If
Okay.
you guys don't mind me disappearing for 2 minutes.
That's fine.
That's fine as well. Ray was actually picking up right where you left off.
Yeah, Shiraz was kind of doing other concept arts at the same time. I guess you've seen a lot of that in your community as well. Shiraz has also done a lot of Metal Gear artwork, but he's also done a lot of different, sculpture of different actors and celebrities and things. So, I mean, he was just kind of experimenting a little bit and trying different things out. And he just drew a polar bear and kind of started working along with that and just trying to a couple of different ideas. The concept of the child sort of just came gradually. I think he was just teasing with actually having a boy just crawling over a polar bear, because it was kind of like a cute picture to do, and it actually kind of progressed from that point, really. That we could have this boy and the polar bear have a bit of a synergy and a bit of a relationship together. Not that kind of relationship, though.
Yeah, right.
And that's kind of just how it sort of progressed from there, really. And but I think a lot of the other influences you've seen in the game have come from sort of Metal Gear influences, really. So I mean, we've got a real emphasis on boss characters in the game, which is obviously you'd be very familiar with, and also the kind of the artwork that Shiraz has done anyway. It seemed like a natural fit. So we've kind of just merged the two sort of concepts together in a way. So I think you definitely see a bit of the Metal Gear remake still in there, and a bit of Metal Gear still in there, but in its own way, really, in our own style.
Okay, so there will be boss battles in this game, and each of them will sort of, I guess, you'll have to tackle in a unique way, I guess, using the boy's powers and all the mechanics and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that again, that's going back to sort of the emphasis I made about characters as well. Is I was talking about why we really wanted to spend a lot of time voice acting and casting the right voice actors, because we really want these boss characters to not just be a generic kind of guy you beat at the end of a level.
Sure.
We really want them to kind of have a story, have a motivation, have a personality that you can come to understand, really. So yeah, I think it should be interesting.
Awesome. That's a different kind of different take. I thought maybe you guys were just, you wanted to just completely move away from Metal Gear after all of that happened and whatnot. But that's cool to see there's still kind of influences in the game from maybe what you guys were doing back then. But Yong, you have our next question.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about the presentation of this game. You talked about cutscenes and you got the artwork there. Is that sort of how cutscenes will look like? We'll see like these beautifully drawn artworks sort of presented in that way. So what sort of presentation style are you going for, both visually and auditorially?
The one thing we want to do, I don't know if you guys are familiar with a game called Flashback or Another World, but basically within that game, it's a very 3D sort of platformer type game, and whenever there were action sequences within the game, you'd get these brief little cutscenes that would pop up. They were sort of about 5-10 second little cutscenes that kind of illustrate the action. What we're actually going to try and do is bring that into Cold Horizon a little bit. So we're going to kind of have, obviously that you're going to see the action on screen, but I think whenever there's going to be a dramatic scene that we want to emphasize and it has a bit of a narrative sort of current to it, we're going to really sort of draw that out and use the sort of the cutscene art that you're already familiar with, and have that within the game, as well as sort of separating levels within the game to sort of illustrate the narrative. So I think that presentation is going to work quite seamlessly. I think because we're going to have the platform element, and then we're going to actually go straight into these little cutscenes and really develop it.
Okay.
Hey, Alex.
Welcome back, Alex.
Is that better?
Wow.
Yeah, it looks way better.
That's like 60 frames
Yeah,
per
it's-
second better.
My studio.
Blinded.
So I'm in there. I'm literally like composing music. I can't do anything else. So yeah.
So we were talking about the presentation of the game. Ray talked a bit about the visuals. So can you tell us a bit about sort of what you're going for? What's the goal ultimately with audio for this game? What are you trying to convey with the music and the, I guess, sound effects and everything?
Sure. I mean, as I mentioned, it's I wanted to certainly be a very cinematic score. Because I've come from that background, mainly working on films. I worked on a wildlife documentary for London Zoo, and that was again a very cinematic orchestral sound. However, it is a 2D platformer, and there's undoubtedly going to be moments where you're going to have ambient sound as well.
Yeah.
So that's been important. I guess Chris and I have approached it as in certainly the episodic and the seasonal nature of the game has informed the soundtrack and the sound. So for each season, we're going to have a different kind of sound palette and a different group of instruments to work with, some of which are ethnic, as I say. And yeah, so really it's the instrumentation and the actual sound worlds will change with each season. But the continuity comes from these themes that we're creating for the characters, which, so it doesn't sound like a completely different score.
Sure.
Music is so important to narrative, and certainly because narrative is so important to Cold Horizon, it's a key part of that. Another point I was going to say is the relationship between music and sound design. I mean, both in film and game can be virtually non-existent. Sorry, I don't mean the relationship. I mean the line between them can be virtually non-existent.
Right.
So there's moments where the boy activates his power. There's what sounds like sound design, but it's also part of the score. So it feels very natural and very fluid when you're you're going into these moments which are slightly different gameplay, but at the same time, it feels very fluid with the music and the sound design working together.
That's very cool.
So yeah, I guess that's it. I could go on about it for days. So.
Sure. Now, the visually is we saw a bunch of the teasers and the trailers. Would you say that's sort of an accurate representation of what we will see in the final game, or are those sort of like concept cutscenes? Like how final, I guess I would say, are what we have seen so far. I know like the gameplay it said, it's alpha gameplay, but stuff like the cutscenes, you see the sequences happening. Is that sort of the style we can expect for these cutscenes?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, I think the Shiraz's art is... I think we've pretty much established early on that that's how we want that appearance to look. I think it'll be perhaps a bit more polished.
Yeah, sure.
I think that we'll probably spend a bit more time making sure that the elements of it are less brushstrokey and a bit more refined. But definitely, I think the cutscenes themselves will look pretty much as you see them now, and certainly the sound has been, Alex will tell you, he's worked painlessly on that.
It's very cool. It reminded me a lot of like Peace Walker and Portable Ops in that style, except it's got a more sort of, I guess, Nordic feel to it or what have you. But I think it looks very cool. It's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to see what more you guys can do with these cutscenes and these.
Just in regards sorry to interrupt you. Just in regards to the opening cutscene that you saw in the trailer, I just have to give a quick shout out to Harriet Kastner, who's our vocalist, because she did a fantastic job.
Oh yeah.
Very, beautiful. You wouldn't have thought, but she's actually English, even though she's singing Norwegian. It doesn't,
Wow.
you don't notice it at all. But she learnt this Norwegian folk song and did a fantastic job. So yeah.
Is that
I give a
the
shout.
Mother's Lullaby song, I believe? Or yeah,
that's the one. Yeah, and I think that to me is going to be a really important theme throughout the game, because the boy's relationship with his mother is so central to the story. And the lullaby is kind of a way of connecting those two characters together.
Interesting. No, yeah, I listened to the track and presentation. I mean, this game just blows my mind in a lot of ways. So, I mean, just fantastic job on all that. So yeah, Daly, go ahead.
Awesome. So my question for you guys, a lot of like 2D platformers and even some of the newer ones today kind of suffer sometimes from replayability. Limbo and Oni and stuff like that kind of sometimes suffer from that. Once you've played it, you don't really need to play it again. What are you guys doing to combat that? Is there going to be kind of optional areas or maybe different paths within your 2D world where you can split or go up or down or whatever the case may be? Are you guys going to offer some variety so that people will be able to go back and maybe play the first chapter over again? Because as you said, it's going episodic in nature, and sometimes you might be waiting for the next one to come out. I think you guys have a unique challenge here, because with games that are episodic, like you said, like Telltale, the Walking Dead series, or the Borderlands, or Life is Strange, you can go back and choose different options, so your story's always a little different while you wait for the next one to come out. So how are you guys going to tackle some of the replayability issues that maybe 2D platformers might have?
I think we did an update last night where we basically said that one of the stretch goals in the game is to add some updates, some extra additional modes. So I mean, that's one area we were looking at, and one thing we'd like to do, if development allows, is to actually create. So obviously, I know there's one issue that does happen with episodic games. I know a few people have brought this up, is that there's a lot of delay between them. So one thing we really wanted to try and do was to add additional modes in that sort of time frame between episodes, to kind of like keep people playing the game for a start, and also to kind of like keep that, make the wait a bit more bearable. But also I think with the nature of being a platformer as well, it does give us some interesting options as well. Like for instance, there's a lot of leaderboard type things we can do. There's a lot of mini game type things we can add to the game. We also would really like to add sort of a new game plus mode as well. So in terms of replayability, I think it would be great to actually have the boys' abilities all available to you right from the start, so then we can add some new sort of types of puzzles throughout the game as well, cool. As opposed to having them just changing episodically and seasonally. So I mean, there's a few ideas we've got sort of swimming around, and obviously, at the moment we just kind of really want to get the base funding done, put together, because I mean that will enable us then to just put the game together. But we've got some ideas to really make it more flexible and a bit more replayable than just your standard platform affair, really.
That's very cool.
Just to jump in there, of course, recently we announced that the base funding is actually going to fund not one but 2 episodes now.
Oh, cool.
So really great value. Certainly, we feel like we as a team we've developed the game enough to be able to produce those 2 episodes for that goal.
Very cool.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely make sure that we distribute the Kickstarter link here in our chat here in just a few minutes, so that people can kind of see what you're talking about and get a kind of visual reference to that as well. But I think that's really important that you guys do spend some time on that. Obviously, getting the game put together is obviously the number one focus. But when you play a game like this, for instance, with the Resident Evil games, the ones that came out in episodic nature, one of our co-hosts played 1 and 2 and then kind of fell off because there wasn't enough replayability. It wasn't as interesting, and by the time then third or fourth ones were coming out, he wasn't interested anymore. So I think it's definitely important that you guys do have some cool little side things that you can do in the meantime to wait. So with that said, Yong, you are up again, buddy.
Yep. So Alex, you touched upon the development of Cold Horizon. So can you guys I guess tell us how far along in development is Cold Horizon, whether it be a percentage, just an idea for how many of the systems have been implemented, how many of the ideas have been implemented. So how far along is Cold Horizon right now? And when are you aiming for this game to be released?
I mean, certainly, I don't know if Ray agrees, but I think we were definitely aiming for next year rather than this year to release the first couple of episodes. It's difficult to put a definite date on it, but I don't know, Ray, what's your opinion?
I mean, I think we were hoping to sort of make it the earlier part of 2016 for the first episode. I think that's the hope, really. That's what we're sort of kind of striving for. And then probably releasing the first sort of batch of episodes throughout 2016 with hopefully being able to end it off then, but if not, it'd be early 2017 to end the whole thing off. But I mean, that's a very, very rough sort of time scale at the moment. But basically, I think we know what's actually going to happen in this first episode. We've pretty much got the narrative direction mapped out. We've pretty much got an idea of what kind of music score we're going to go with, how things are going to play, the type of power that we're going to go with for the boy. It's kind of just a case of all sort of piecing it together, really, and just getting it locked down and getting it polished. I think that's the main sort of goal for us at the moment.
Okay.
Exactly. I mean, part of the reason we haven't shown much gameplay so far is because we're focusing on making it look polished and look, quality, rather than just releasing anything we're working on. Because I mean, people do that, but we want it to look as good as possible.
Yeah, sure.
So that's part of the reason you haven't seen much gameplay, but we hope that will change over the coming weeks.
That's very cool. So Daly, go ahead.
Awesome. So my next question for you guys is, what's the distribution plan for this? Are you guys going to go on something like one of the off-sites? Are you guys trying to bring this to Steam, or is this going to be a direct from your website sale? And then in addition to that, do you guys plan to bring this to like an Android or iOS type thing, or is this strictly going to be PC?
I'll leave that with Ray because I've got some eerie lighting going on here. I've got to
Sure thing. We've actually got a Steam Greenlight campaign run at the moment, which we're trying to get all thumbs up. At the moment, it's still not quite there, but hopefully we'll be able to push that past with this campaign. We're definitely looking at other options as well. I mean, I think the idea of from the website is something we have considered, and using a PayPal option for that.
Right, I've seen that a lot of indie devs lately have been doing that, selling on Steam and having a website. And then additionally, I'm blanking on the name, but there's other websites out there where you can download, like I think it's called like Desaurus or something like that, and other platforms where people are trying to find these type of indie games. As I'm sure, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I think it's really important that as a reviewer of video games, as my main job, I see like every day, like literally 10 to 15 games come out on Steam that just aren't worth it. And sometimes it's easy for a game like this that has a lot of potential, and you guys are doing it the right way, and you're not, like Alex said, just throwing something up on Steam just because you can. You see guys nowadays doing asset flips, buying Unity packs, and then re-uploading them as full games. Your game has the ability to get lost in there, so I think it's important that you guys look at some of the other distribution methods for a game that's, has time and love put into it.
Definitely, yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, Desura is something we've looked at, and hopefully GOG as well, and making it DRM free. Yeah. But as you know, the green light is a bit of a minefield at the moment, and that's unfortunate to say. But we're hoping that we'll be able to get greenlit there. If not, then hopefully other options will happen, and then we'll be able to go onto Steam at another point. But as you say, we're doing everything we can to get it there, and hopefully that'll happen. But it's definitely going to be a digital release to begin with, and then we're gonna when everything is released and all the episodes are out, we're then going to look at probably doing a physical release to sort of encompass it all together with, like I say, hopefully with the additional modes and anything else we decide to do with that. So
kind of like a complete edition, essentially.
Okay. Right. Now the second part of my question was, this is a 2D platformer, so it's primed to be on some of the mobile devices that are out nowadays. Everybody's got a nice little tablet or a phone that could probably run something of this nature. Do you guys plan on, after, let's say you guys hit all of your funding goals and everything looks good, you guys sell some good copies, would you consider having this on an Android or iOS?
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at, as you say, look at what it's capable of these days, it's absolutely incredible. I mean, you can play Final Fantasy VII on there right now. You can play Dragon Quest games on there. Thomas Was Alone. It's mobile now. Is another game of platform and tablets, and you can pretty much put anything you want on there. Yeah, absolutely.
Thomas is the one. I'm so glad you wanted that. I just recently found out about that game. It's an amazing game. Yeah. So definitely, I think that's really cool. It's with a game like this, I think a lot of users may obviously want to play it on their PC, but a lot of users also might want to take it with them somewhere. They might not, if they're using their PC to play, games like Battlefield or, the Metal Gear Solid or whatever, they might want to take this, 2D platforming experience with them when they leave somewhere. So I think that's important, at least for you guys to consider, and I'm glad you guys are considering it. If you do make it to Android or iOS, I'll definitely be picking up a copy. Looks very cool too to play on the phones. Yong, your next question?
Yeah. So there are some people out there who are, they look at Kickstarter and go, okay, because there have been some Kickstarters that people have helped fund, and maybe the product didn't turn out what they wanted it to be. And in this case, there are some people who are saying, this looks great, but it looks like this might be a case of style over substance, or something along those lines. What would you say to those people who might be worried in that sense about funding this Kickstarter, because it's become a bit of a risk. Like I just saw an article not too long ago, a Kickstarter project, it was funded with like $660,000 or something, but the game ended up being not what people wanted. So what would you say to those who say this is style over substance?
I think it's an interesting question because, I mean, games mean different things to different people. So I was talking to my girlfriend about this the other day, and for her, games, it's actually more about the story and the adventure for her. Whereas a lot of people are like, oh, okay, I want to see, cold, hard gameplay. And obviously the gameplay is important, but story and the art style, the music and everything, it's all part of the game. Mm-hmm. So I think to say that it's difficult because obviously we have got gameplay, but it's a very kind of early stage. Mm-hmm. That's why we're kind of, holding off on showing everything. But the actual, the gameplay is developing behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And we will be releasing that, certainly over the next few weeks.
Cool.
So yeah, I guess I reckon style is just as important as substance, but then I'm a musician, so I would say that.
I think one of the awesome things about Kickstarter, though, and I think it's a feature that's not really talked about, is it does give you a chance to talk to the community. And I think one of the things we've actually tried to do with this campaign in the early stages is actually create alpha and beta forums for people. To actually get involved with that. We're going to actually hopefully distribute beta builds to people so they can check out the game at an earlier stage prior to release, give us their feedback to help sort of build the game. They can give us their feedback and see whether it's something they like, something they dislike, something that they think needs more work, something that needs less work. Mm-hmm. And I think with Kickstarter and other crowdfunding platforms for that matter, I think it gives you a chance to develop a game in new and exciting ways, because you effectively have a group of QA on your side, mm-hmm. A group of investors who want the best possible game you can create. And they want value for their money. And so I think with that, with what we're doing with this campaign, I think it does give a good chance to give a more polished product at the end of it.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I looked at the Kickstarter website, and there are people who post comments, and I see the replies are very prompt. You address all the any questions that they may have, and that's the great thing about Kickstarter. It really connects the developers with the audience. So no, that's really good to hear. So yeah, thanks for the reply.
Awesome. So again, I want to talk a little bit about some of the, obstacles that you guys are going to have to face and what you're going to do to kind of overcome that. So again, to bring up some other 2D platformers like Limbo or Oni, you guys have a unique chance here, because these two games in particular have been kind of like classic hits on the 2D platforming side. So what are you guys what makes your game different and kind of stand out? Whereas Limbo's got this dark, story to it and the dark gameplay and graphics, and it's kind of gory. And then Oni's like the complete opposite. It's more bright and colorful, and it's got all of this rich thing with like a weird type of yeti or something like that, and some kind of star being. What is going to put your guys' game above and different than some of the ones that are coming out right now?
Well, I think certainly the seasonal aspect of the game is very important to us, because as Ray previously mentioned, it's like each episode will be a game in itself, and obviously the story is going to link it all together. But I think that's what's going to make it not as repetitive as some 2D platformers, because there's going to be new gameplay elements, new sound and music, new artwork. But obviously, because it's the same team working on each of the seasons, we've got that continuity as well.
Right.
So.
Right. What do you think, man?
I think it all ties together with the narrative. I mean, definitely, as Alex said, it definitely ties together with the narrative. I mean, I think that you see a lot of with the actual story overall. I think that even though they're going to be separate journeys within themselves, they're all going to link into the story that we're trying to tell. And I think with the change in mechanics to make things fresh throughout, regardless of whether or not you're going to pick it up episode by episode, or if you're going to pick it up as one straight game, however you want to play it, I think it's always going to feel a bit different. And I do feel it's like having different games each time. And with the replayability factor and the narrative within that and different modes we're going to offer, I think that there's going to be a lot there to digest, and hopefully there's going to be enough there for a second playthrough, maybe even a third playthrough, depends.
I guess in a way we're kind of it's whereas some games are like movies, ours is more like a TV series. So it's like end of Game of Thrones, oh my god, somebody died, which always happens. It's going to be like that. We're going to have a cliffhanger at the end of each episode, which will leave people wanting to come back and find out whether Jon Snow is still alive, and what that is. He still alive?
Right.
Cold Horizon, episode 1. The polar bear dies. What?
What?
Or does it?
Or does it?
Controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clearly, it's a warm polar bear. But I think with that said, you guys, so you're basically the story that intertwines from episode to episode in the seasons is kind of what you guys are expecting to bring to the table, which is going to make your game different from some of the other ones out there. Is that what I'm getting? All right, perfect. Y'all, your next question.
So, one of the, I think, the intriguing aspects of this game is this boy's powers, and I think that's one of the features that it's very unique. You got a polar bear with a boy in his back, and he has some powers. So far, we've seen, I think, like one power, which is he freezes time, and he breaks like a giant piece of ice, which is acting like an obstacle, and he just breaks that apart, just no problem. So I guess first of all, will all powers sort of will it be kind of like because it reminded me a lot of Okami, where you freeze and then you paint like a little sign or whatever, and then the power happens. It's cool. Yeah, is that very similar in that sense, where time freezes, players can sort of maybe think about, okay, what do I want to do here? Use this power or that power, or what have you, and then after that, could you hint at another power that the boy has for the audience that maybe you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, I see the sort of Okami reference. It's not quite the same as in terms of actually drawing a symbol for that, but we do have different abilities, so that there won't just be one sort of flat ability per episode. I think that as we sort of highlighted before, there were going to be sort of traps that we're going to use for hunters as well, so it won't necessarily be a power to solve a puzzle. It will also be a puzzle to sort of go on the offensive or the defensive. So there will be sort of an element of choice there, I guess, but I think it's going to be more a case of coming to understand how those powers work to your advantage and how they will affect the environment, and kind of figuring out what you need to do at any time. But in terms of other abilities, we actually have one other ability that we're looking at the moment for the spring. And just to sort of highlight the differences, obviously you've seen a very destructive power.
Sure.
Another power we're looking at for the spring is actually going to be a creative power. So we're actually going to be looking at sort of creating vines to come out, or branches, or to sort of work with the wildlife. So I think, and that's going to create options then to sort of climb to higher platforms, or to get across laps or things like that. So I think that there's going to be a real contrast in styles between, yes, you've seen destructive, but you're also going to see something a bit more fresh and a bit more environmentally friendly, so to speak.
That's very cool. And you said every season will get sort of a new set of powers?
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. So as I say, we've the winter's going to be very winter themed. Spring is going to be a bit more spring themed, and it's going to keep going along that way.
Awesome.
Great. So I think this is my last question for you guys before I hand it over to Yong, and it's about the content of the game. What are you guys aiming this to be as far as the maturity rating? Is this going to be an M-rated game? Is this going to be an E for everyone? Are you guys going to kind of like, obviously you've got a nice visual aspect, and it would be cool to kind of see your take on a more mature game. Maybe if you drop an icicle on somebody, you get to see blood or whatever. Or are you guys trying to stay away from that route and make this a game that kids can play?
I think it's got quite a lot of dark themes in it. Certainly, I mean, if you watch the trailer, it's obviously you get an idea of it's quite a tragic backstory.
Exactly. That's really kind of why I'm asking.
It's not going to be like. Yeah, it's not going to be like Quentin Tarantino, people losing their limbs kind of gory. But I think that, there's going to be blood. There will be blood. And yeah, it's...
I just want to bite somebody's
but it's not going to be like gratuitous, I guess. Sorry?
Okay. Yeah.
So I just want to bite somebody as a polar bear. So
yeah,
that's going to happen.
Okay. All right.
How much blood and guts you're going to see? It's
not necessarily like blood and guts that I'm worried about. It's you have this beautiful art style, and a lot of times some games will take that art style and be like, all right, well, I don't want to mucky it up with blood and gore and violence and stuff like that. Sometimes when you hit an enemy in some games, you'll just see like a white swipe and that'll be it. But I think you guys have a unique thing here where you're telling, like you said, a kind of more mature, more dark story, and it has the ability to kind of impact you if you have the ability to kind of see what you're doing and not necessarily just visual representations by a swipe or a heart that loses, health or something like that. If I hit an enemy as a polar bear, I'd like to feel like I'm a polar bear hitting an enemy type of thing. So is that the kind of route that you guys are planning to take?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I first came on board, one of the influences that struck me straight away about the game was a game called Heart of Darkness. This is going way back to the early 90s. And it was very dark, and you could got the feel of it being very, very dark, and you knew straight away that this wasn't for kids. But at the same time, there wasn't necessarily in-your-face gore, there wasn't necessarily any swearing or anything like that. You could tell that it was some twisted kind of undertones in there that... can affect you on different levels psychologically, and I think that there's a real sense of that here as well. But also there's that real sort of sense of a creation of a bond as well. So I think you've got a nice sort of halfway home between the two, because I think it's all about figuring out the relationship between the boy and the bear, as well as kind of seeing the twisted world that they're in as well.
Awesome. Well, that's definitely reassuring to hear. I was really kind of scared that maybe you guys weren't going to go necessarily that route, since you have this beautiful art style. Like I said, I've seen a lot of games that will just kind of shy away from that just so they can keep that E for everyone type of rating, and those damned with what you see. But it's definitely cool to hear you guys are pondering to get a good mix, not overly graphic, but enough to drive your point home. I think is important to have in there. So that is it for me. Yong's got a couple more questions. I think two more here.
Yeah, I just got two more.
Then if anybody in the chat has any questions for these guys while Yong asks his last two questions, I'll take a tally of that. The way we do that, chat, is if you have a question for these guys, put two number signs in front of your question. That way I can filter it out. So, Jan, go ahead and take it away, buddy.
Yep, so for my second to last question, tell us a bit about the characters in the game. We already know about the polar bear, and we know about the boy, but what about the ensemble? You know, the boy obviously must have a mother and a father. There've got to be, you know, some pursuers, and obviously we don't want to spoil too much, but can you tell us a bit about some of the characters that you can talk about, and I guess how they tie into the story a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from the audio you heard in the early teaser that we gave, you heard a guy named Trent mentioned. Right. Trent is going to be an interesting character. I think he's going to kind of lean on the good and the bad side, and he's basically the sort of the second in command to the main big bad in our story, called Alexander Sycamore, who we've announced is going to be played by Julian Seeger. And basically, Trent is going to be kind of like your not your typical henchman, because he's going to have his own agendas and he's going to have his own sort of power plays he wants to do, and his own way of getting around in the world. But he had a close relationship with the boy's father, which has kind of gone a bit by the wayside, as we've kind of hinted at in the teaser. We're not saying too much about that, but there's certainly an animosity between them, which we're going to explore in the story in a bit more detail. And then you've got Alexander, who I've just mentioned as well, who is sort of the big bad. It was actually his carnival that Ira came from. And basically he's, since his carnival's gone away, and he's become a bit more in it for himself, and he's trying to deal with the harsh reality of a post-apocalyptic wasteland. So I think you're going to see him kind of fend against the elements a little bit, but also, since he has all that access to him as well with the creatures, he's going to perhaps abuse that ability as well.
Interesting.
So I mean, we've got these characters have all kind of got their own little stories and their dialogues going on, and I think that it's as much their story as it is about the bear and the boy, and I think that's what makes it interesting.
Very cool.
Cool.
Not just a bear that can't speak or a boy that can't speak.
Sure. Now, in terms of the supernatural elements of the game, you know, we have, as the players, we have in our possession these supernatural powers. Will players encounter supernatural elements? You know, other than the boy, will there be other elements that are supernatural, or is that something you'd rather not talk about, or, you know? Or will the supernatural elements revolve around the boy?
Yeah, I think they'll be mainly focused on the boy, but also he will affect the environment around him. So, you know, as he uses his power, you know, like Ray was saying, branches will grow to higher platforms. Icicles will fall down to trap the hunters. So yeah, it's very much coming from the boy, though. The boy is the symbol and the chosen one, as it were. So,
I guess the reason I'm asking is because, you know, I go back to Metal Gear and think of all the supernatural bosses and all the supernatural characters that you encounter, but you know, it'll be certainly a very interesting dynamic regardless. Go ahead.
So I was going to elaborate on that slightly. Actually, we've with Sycamore actually mentioning, he's going to he refers to the boy as the symbol. So the boy is not actually, he doesn't actually see him as a child, basically. And there's basically a ritual that Sycamore believes in, that the boy needs to be sacrificed in order to bring the world back to prosperity again. So that's kind of one of his main motivations for actually trying to get hold of the boy and actually trying to to do this. So I guess you can look at that as a kind of a supernatural element, that they actually believe in this ritual that could actually change the face of things, and so there will be sort of events circulating around that will make you think, actually, okay.
Huh, interesting.
Sorry to go back to Game of Thrones, but it's similar to...
Yeah.
It's similar to... I've just been reading about Game of Thrones all day, so it's similar to Stannis. Spoilers. That scene, essentially, you know, magic rituals that affect the world and affect people's destinies. That's the kind of idea.
I see. Very cool. And for my final question, any parting words for the people watching right now and for the people who will be watching when the video is uploaded? You know, you got this Kickstarter campaign and we still got ways to go. So what do you want to tell us and to the audience to finish off this interview?
you know, I say, as Ray was saying, you know, we've got a really unique idea with Cold Horizon. It's not your run-of-the-mill 2D platformer. We've got a really exciting story, you know, brilliant artwork, great music. You know, it's a really fantastic kind of concept. And yes, the gameplay, we've got some really interesting ideas for puzzles, stealth. You know, we'll try and get some Metal Gear Easter eggs. You've already seen the cardboard box in there. So yeah, I mean, it's a really fun, exciting project to work on, and I think that's why people should, you know, definitely look at our Kickstarter and considering pledging, or at least just sharing the link and sharing it with people who they think might be interested.
Very cool.
I think there's something different there, you know, and I feel that you see a lot of projects come to Kickstarter, and you see some that get funded, perhaps that shouldn't have got funded, or some that get funded, and you know they do it with effortlessly. And I think with us, we've obviously had a bit of struggle with the time scale, but I think that there's something there that deserves a chance, and I think it's fresh enough and it's different enough that I think it could, you know, be considered a game that people will come back to and enjoy in the future, or something that will be memorable and stand out for them. But you know, it's something we enjoy working on, and we'd like to just share that with as many people as possible.
Great. Now, before we go, Daly, did you get the link that I sent you?
Yes, I have that. I'm not ready to play that just yet. I got 2 questions coming from the chat,
okay.
And then one that somebody just kind of reminded me of. So,
Sure,
let me make sure I get their name right here. Where'd it go here? Jonah Bob would like to know if there's any Scottish characters in the game.
Good question.
Maybe.
There you go.
Young, can you do a Scottish accent?
We're not against Scottish people, so I think, you know, if the right Scottish person came along and auditioned, you know, I think we could include some Scottish people in Cold Horizon.
Okay. The other question was, it's actually referring to, as we talked about earlier, Young actually is planning to voice a character here. Can we talk a little bit about his character? Who is it, and his role in the story?
I think that we've got... To be honest, we've got a couple of characters in mind for Young at the moment, and I think that in a positive way, the audition was so good that it's got me thinking about a couple of people that I'd like him to play. So, so it's a good problem. But at the moment, I think we'll just have to go away and chat and get Young to audition for a couple of parts, and we'll see, you know, which one it works out best, I guess. But
to be continued, basically.
Indeed. Yeah. There we go.
Okay, so can't talk about that yet. Let me see if there was any other ones in here. I think that actually about wraps it up. So, as Young was saying, we do have one kind of like special treat here at the end. Let me pull this up.
So this video will provide a sample of some of the voices that you'll be hearing in the game, as well as like a little... like an Easter egg at the end. I thought was pretty funny, and which I believe to be that is gameplay footage, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
Trent's lost sight of the symbol. He was last spotted north of Finnmark, and is likely headed your way. Stay alert.
You got it, boss.
How Trent's still got a head on his shoulders, I'll never know.
Ensure the symbol is brought to me alive, but that polar...
Boss? Hello? Boss? Did he just say polar bear? Out here?
Right, sure. I suppose it's come in search of a frozen donkey wheel. Don't be ridiculous, Johnny.
What the?
Very cool. Very cool. I like it. That was awesome. I like I had heard the little clip of Young's voice acting, but I never saw the end of the video. So that was I never saw any of the gameplay there, so I thought that was pretty cool. Definitely, Young, you're pretty good. So that was cool, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little clip there. It was that was awesome. I like the cardboard box and was that a hunter that we saw at the end there?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right, yeah.
Very cool. So they jumped down to kind of investigate what's going on, and the polar bear just whacked them. So that was awesome.
It's kind of like a little stealth sequence.
Right.
You know, just a brief little teaser about what we're going to do with the stealth elements of the gameplay. So.
Okay. I could definitely appreciate the question mark. So, but the very, very cool. So is there anything else you guys would like to say or talk about before we get out of here today?
Just that we appreciate you guys giving us another opportunity and being so supportive. Your community has been absolutely incredible throughout this campaign and prior to that. So thank you all very much. We really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. It's incredible that you've given us this opportunity to at least tell people about the game. So yeah, thank you.
Now will we be seeing the cardboard box in the game as an actual?
I think it can,
unless we get sued.
Well, yeah.
Do Konami have a patent on cardboard boxes?
I don't know.
They just might. They might.
They might. But okay.
I don't know, but I don't know about that. I think there's got to be a game out there that makes
a crate instead.
Yeah, right. There you
you did notice there's a Big Cake Games logo on the cardboard box, so we've actually reclaimed that copyright back to us.
There we go.
It's you can say it's not cardboard. It's some kind of plaster. It's a plasterboard box. All right.
Plasterboard box.
Exactly. That's what
it's just a cardboard effect.
Yeah. You can't tell it's cardboard. I mean, there's
it's made from bamboo. It's okay. It's all good.
It's all organic.
We're in a jungle. We're in a jungle.
Exactly. So
more likely to be bamboo.
Yeah, it's a different kind of box. It's not cardboard.
Should be a cake box.
That's a cake box. Bam. There we go.
That's it. It's a cake box.
Well, I now own that IP, so.
Yeah, all right. Well, royalty fees. Here we go.
Yeah, right. I'm kidding. Well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you guys, and you guys are definitely more than welcome to come back on the show closer to launch of the game, or when you have some major updates. We can do another small little show like this. That is really why I started doing what I do. I didn't used to interview voice actors. I used to just be indie developers and game developers. So it's definitely important to bring those type of people on here as well. So it's more than an honor to have you guys on the show. And we definitely look forward to seeing what you have. We've distributed the Kickstarter link throughout the chat so people know where to go to check it out. We've got your Twitter handle right here at the top, at Big Cake Games, where people can follow you on Twitter. And hopefully we can do all we can to help you guys reach your goals.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, greatly appreciate it.
Anything else, Young, from you?
No, just, thank you for sharing with us about the game. Thank you for bringing me along for the project. I'm really excited to be a part of it, and I hope that a lot of you guys are too. I think the game, just looks amazing. Just presentation-wise, it's very unique and very cool. The gameplay sounds incredibly interesting, and it's not something that has been really done, I don't think. And it's like a very unique take on 2D platformer, and I will definitely do what I can and help get this game funded, because I think this could be like one of those rare gems that could turn into something really amazing. So yeah,
thank you.
Looking forward to it, guys.
Thanks,
you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll speak to you soon. Have a good day.
Yeah, definitely. Take care, guys.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.